Have you ever woken up in the morning, gone through your entire day, meetings, errands, scrolling through your phone, even conversations with people, and then, by nightfall, felt as if nothing real actually happened? It's not that you were asleep. Your eyes were open, your body was moving, you were busy, maybe even exhausted. But deep down, you weren't fully alive. This is what I call the invisible prison of autopilot. It is not a prison with walls and bars. It's a prison built from routine, habit, and unconscious reactions. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That is the essence of autopilot. Your unconscious mind running your life while you call it destiny. Think about your average day. You wake up to the alarm. The first thing you reach for is your phone. Notifications, messages, emails. Before you've even stretched your arms, the world has already claimed your attention. You follow the same path to work or school. You exchange the same greetings. You sit in the same chair, talk about the same things, react in the same way. By evening, you feel tired, but strangely unfulfilled. Then you repeat, again, and again, and again. Most people don't even call this a problem. They call it normal life. But normal is not the same as true. Normal is simply repeated. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, wrestled with the same dilemma. In his meditations, he wrote, "At dawn, when you rise unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to do the work of a human being." Even 2,000 years ago, he noticed how heavy routine can feel, how the human spirit resists another day of repetition. And yet he reminded himself, each morning is an invitation, a chance to rise as a conscious being, not a machine. This problem is not new. Long before smartphones and deadlines, sages warned about the danger of unconscious living. The Buddha spoke of Maya, the illusion of reality. He taught that most of us mistake our mental projections for truth, that we live inside dreams while believing we are awake. His call was simple but radical. Awake. Be the witness of your thoughts. The Stoics echoed this. Epictetus told his students, "You are not your body. You are not your reputation. You are not your possessions. You are your choices." But how many choices do we really make? If we are honest, most of our actions are reactions, impulses, habits, the repetition of yesterday. And Jung described it in psychological terms. The persona, the mask we wear to gain acceptance. Most people, he warned, never take the mask off. They live their whole lives as a role, forgetting their true self exists behind it. Different eras, different words, same truth. To live unconsciously is to never truly live. If people were already sleepwalking in ancient times, imagine how deep the trance has become today. Technology has weaponized distraction. Entire industries are built on keeping you unconscious. Every scroll, every ding, every notification is designed to pull your attention away from yourself. Consider this. The average person checks their phone nearly 100 times a day. That's 100 moments stolen from reflection, from presence, from life. Modern autopilot looks like this. Reaching for your phone before your feet touch the floor. Reacting to every message instantly, as if silence were a crime. Filling every quiet moment with noise, music, videos, endless scrolling. Saying yes automatically because saying no feels too uncomfortable. And underneath it all lies a hunger we can't name, a hunger that no amount of distraction ever satisfies. We keep feeding ourselves a stimulation, yet we feel emptier every day. But autopilot isn't only external. It also lives inside the mind. How many nights have you laid awake, replaying old conversations, rehearsing arguments that never happened, imagining disasters that never came? That is overthinking, the inner autopilot of the mind. You are here, but your thoughts are elsewhere. Your body is in the present, but your mind is trapped in loops of past and future. Seneca, the Roman Stoic, captured this perfectly. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And yet how many hours, How many days of your life have you lost to imagine suffering? How much energy have you poured into scenarios that never even came true? Overthinking is autopilot in disguise. It feels active. Your mind is busy, racing, but in truth, it's the same loop repeating endlessly, consuming your attention, draining your energy. Another face of autopilot is comparison. Social media feeds us images of perfect lives, perfect bodies, perfect happiness. Without realizing it, we start measuring ourselves against these illusions. Comparison is endless. There will always be someone richer, more attractive, more successful. Chasing equality with shadows is a race without a finish line. Nietzsche once said, "Man is the cruelest animal, and often the cruelty is self-inflicted." We wound ourselves daily with comparisons, never noticing that what we see in others is an image, not reality. This too is autopilot, the unconscious habit of surrendering our self-worth to illusions, the automatic script that says, "I am not enough because someone else looks like more." At the root of all this is fear, the fear of silence, the fear of facing ourselves. Why do we overwork, overscroll, overthink? Because stillness confronts us with truth. In stillness, we hear the whispers we try to avoid, the doubts, the longings, the shadow. Most people cannot sit in silence for 10 minutes. They would rather fill the air with noise, even meaningless noise, than face the mirror of their own mind. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is power. Silence is where awareness grows. Lao Tzu said, "Silence is a source of great strength." And the Stoics practiced it too, journaling in quiet, reflecting before reacting. Yet in our time, silence feels unbearable. Why? Because it strips away distractions and leaves us face to face with the question, who am I, really? If autopilot makes us miserable, why do we cling to it? Because autopilot feels safe. It is predictable. It shields us from discomfort. It protects us from the terrifying freedom of choice. To live awake means to risk mistakes. To live awake means to face uncertainty. To live awake means to accept responsibility for your life. And for many, that feels heavier than drifting unconsciously. Jung said it clearly, people will do anything no matter how absurd to avoid facing their own souls. Autopilot is absurd, but it is easier than awakening. That is why so many choose to remain asleep. Carl Jung taught that each of us carries a shadow, the hidden part of our personality that holds what we reject, deny, or suppress. Autopilot life is often nothing more than a strategy to avoid that shadow. Why do you overwork? Perhaps not because your job fulfills you, but because resting would force you to confront your feelings of inadequacy. Why do you constantly seek validation? Maybe not because you need attention, but because you fear rejection. Why do you scroll endlessly? Likely not because the content nourishes you, but because silence threatens to expose your emptiness. Autopilot is a shield, a defense mechanism. It keeps the shadow buried where we think it can't hurt us. But Jung warned, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will rule your life and you will call it fate. The shadow does not disappear because you ignore it. The more you repress it, the stronger it grows. Autopilot is not neutral. It is an active avoidance of self. Sometimes life breaks autopilot for us. A sudden breakup, a serious illness, the loss of a job, the death of someone we love. These moments tear away routine and strip life down to its raw essentials. Suddenly the noise stops, the patterns break, and we are forced into awareness. Painful, yes, but real. The Stoics anticipated this. They practiced premeditatio malorum, the meditation on misfortunes. Not because they were pessimists, but because they wanted to prepare their minds for inevitable loss. Seneca wrote, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." His point was simple. Life will shake you, but if you wake up before the storm, you will suffer less. The lesson is this: do not wait for tragedy to wake you. Wake yourself before life has to do it for you. So how do we begin to break free from autopilot? We start by becoming the observer. The Buddha said, "Be the witness of your thoughts." He did not say suppress them. He did not say control them. He said witness, because witnessing transforms everything. When you observe yourself, you create distance. Suddenly you realize, I am not my thoughts. I am not my impulses. I am not my reactions. I am the awareness behind them. This is the crack in the illusion. This is where autopilot loses its grip. Marcus Aurelius practiced this in his daily reflections. He examined his mind like a scientist. He treated his emotions as teachers, not as masters. Jung encouraged patients to notice their dreams, their slips of the tongue, their projections. Why? Because noticing gives you choice. If you can see the pattern, you are no longer controlled by it. Awareness is the first rebellion. To watch yourself is the first act of freedom. But awareness alone is not enough. Action must follow, and action begins not with grand gestures, but with small rebellions, tiny acts of conscious defiance against the machine of autopilot. Leave your phone untouched for the first hour after waking. Practice 5 minutes of silence even when it feels unbearable. Say no to one thing you don't truly want. Walk without headphones, noticing the details of the world. Before saying yes, pause and ask, do I really mean this? These acts may seem small, but they are cracks in the prison wall, and through those cracks, light begins to enter. Never underestimate the power of a small rebellion, because once you taste freedom, you will never again be satisfied with unconsciousness. Make no mistake, awakening is uncomfortable. At first, silence feels unbearable. The mind screams for distraction. Stillness feels like suffocation. You crave the noise you once despised. Then comes guilt. You feel guilty for saying no, for stepping away, for refusing to play the roles that once defined you. Others may accuse you of being selfish, cold, distant. And then comes loneliness. For when you wake up, you no longer fit perfectly into the world of the sleeping. The conversations that once thrilled you may bore you. The relationships that once comforted you may suffocate you. But discomfort is not failure. It is proof that you are growing. The ache of awakening is like the soreness of muscles after a long sleep. It is the sting of eyes adjusting to light. Better to endure the discomfort of truth than the numbness of illusion. Awakening also requires courage, the courage to be misunderstood. When you stop living on autopilot, people notice. They say, "You've changed." And they are right. You have. But what they often mean is, you no longer play the role I wanted you to play. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming your true self means disappointing those who only loved your mask." Epictetus warned his students, if you want to improve, be prepared to be thought foolish and stupid, because growth is rarely applauded by the crowd. To awaken is to risk rejection. To awaken is to choose authenticity over approval. To awaken is to accept that some will not understand you, and to walk your path anyway. So here is the choice before you. Do you remain on autopilot, safe but asleep? Or do you awaken, uncomfortable but free? Autopilot offers comfort, predictability, numbness, but it costs you your soul. Awakening offers discomfort, uncertainty, responsibility, but it rewards you with life itself. Nietzsche wrote, "The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. Autopilot is nothing but the tribe inside your mind, the voices of habit, culture, and expectation. To awaken is to choose truth over illusion. To awaken is to say, better to live in painful reality than in comfortable dreams." If autopilot feeds on noise, then silence is its enemy. Most people run from silence. They call it awkward. They drown it with music, chatter, scrolling. Why? Because silence forces them to confront themselves. And few things are scarier than facing one's own thoughts without distraction. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is presence. It is the moment you finally notice the rhythm of your breath, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the endless chatter of the mind, and then the space beyond that chatter. Lao Tzu said, "Silence is a source of great strength." The Stoics understood this too. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to withdraw inward, to find stillness in the storm. Practicing silence is like sharpening a sword. It cuts through the fog of unconsciousness. It reveals clarity where before there was only noise. Attention is life's most precious currency. Whatever owns your attention owns you. Autopilot scatters your attention into 1,000 fragments. Emails, headlines, endless scrolling, gossip. And then you wonder why you feel drained, anxious, and unfulfilled. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." Autopilot erases that space. Awakening restores it. Guard your attention as sacred. Before giving it away, ask, does this deserve my life? Because that's what attention is. Life, paid in moments. Living awake means reclaiming your ability to choose consciously. Autopilot says yes without thought. Autopilot says no out of fear. But authentic choice requires awareness. It requires pausing, reflecting, and acting from alignment rather than habit. Jung called this individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Wholeness comes when your choices reflect who you truly are, not the mask you wear, not the expectations others place upon you. Imagine if every yes you spoke came from truth and every no came from courage. Your life would look radically different. That is what it means to live awake. But freedom is not free. When you stop living predictably, people resist. They preferred the version of you who was always available, always agreeable, always playing the part. To live awake means to disappoint some people, to set boundaries, to accept being misunderstood. Epictetus reminded his students, if you wish to be free, do not wish for things that are not under your control. Approval is not under your control. Understanding is not under your control, but your choices, that belongs to you. Freedom costs comfort. Freedom costs approval. But what you gain in return is yourself. Comfort is the fuel of autopilot. It lulls you, numbs you, keeps you repeating yesterday. But comfort never satisfies. It only sedates. True fulfillment comes from growth, and growth always demands discomfort. Nietzsche proposed amor fati, the love of one's fate, to embrace life fully, even its hardships, as necessary parts of existence. Autopilot hides reality, awakening reveals it. And though reality can be painful, it is also where joy, love, and meaning exist. To awaken is to accept the unknown, to step into life raw, unshielded, vulnerable, and in that risk, to finally feel alive. Breaking autopilot is not merely stopping bad habits. It is a rebirth. When you awaken, you meet yourself again. The self beneath the mask, beneath the routines, beneath the noise. Jung called this individuation. The Buddhists called it enlightenment. The Stoics described it as living according to nature. Different traditions, same truth. Awakening is the rediscovery of your essence. This rebirth is not dramatic. It happens quietly. In the pause before you react. In the silence you no longer fear. In the courage to choose your own path. And slowly the self you thought was lost begins to emerge. Whole, authentic, alive. Awakening is not a one-time revelation. It is a daily practice. Every day autopilot tempts you back. Every day the machine whispers, just scroll, just repeat, just forget. And every day, you must choose again. The Stoics reflected each night, reviewing their day. The Buddhists meditated, returning to breath. Jung encouraged journaling dreams and confronting symbols. These were not hobbies. They were disciplines, daily anchors against unconsciousness. Your practice can be simple. 5 minutes of silence, writing down your thoughts, asking before each decision, is this true? What matters is not the method, but the consistency, because practice keeps you awake. At the heart of awakening is presence. Autopilot steals presence. It scatters you across past and future, fears and fantasies. Awakening gathers you into the now. Presence is not dramatic. It is the small noticing, the way sunlight hits the floor, the taste of food, the sound of a friend's laughter. These moments seem ordinary, but when you are truly present, you realize this is life. Not tomorrow, not yesterday, not the dream or the fear, only this. To awaken is to reclaim presence, and in presence, to discover the miracle of simply being. In a culture engineered to keep you asleep, awakening is rebellion. When you put down your phone, when you sit in silence, when you say no to illusions, you are resisting systems that profit from your unconsciousness. To awaken is to declare, I am not a machine, I am not a consumer, I am alive. And in that act of resistance, you reclaim what is most sacred, your soul. So now I ask you, are you awake or are you still sleepwalking? Are you living or merely existing? Jung warned, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Do not let that be your story. Do not hand your life to autopilot. Awaken, observe, choose, live. If this message reached you, let me know in the comments. Type, I choose to wake up. And if you're ready for more wisdom on breaking free from routine, mastering your mind, and living with clarity, subscribe and join us here in Satopia.